Real stories, real conversations. This is Real Talk with RAFF.
Hi, I'm Susan Raff, your host of Real Talk with RAFF. We have a very special edition of our podcast, which I started doing about 2 years ago during the pandemic in a different place here at Channel 3. But now we've moved to the studio, and we are very grateful because we have a crew and we have a wonderful guest today. And one of the things that I think is important with this show is something that everyone can relate to, and that is we do know someone who's been injured in a car accident, a boating accident, someone who's had a stroke. And Gaylord Hospital is a place in Wallingford, Connecticut that really gives people their lives back. And I've had the honor to meet a lot of people at Gaylord over the years. And they do a very special event every year called the Gauntlet. And that's where I met our guest today. It is a 5K obstacle course, right? And Laurie Bizzairo did that. But what's really interesting and inspiring is that just a few months ago, Laurie was in a wheelchair. And you've come such a long way. And to see the adaptive athletes compete in this obstacle course is wonderful. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story, because it is such a story.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about, where and how did you get to Gaylord? I understand you had a very tragic boating accident.
I did. In August of 22, we were on a fairly small boat. It was like a 22-foot whaler going over to Long Island. We were going to go to Greenport for the day, and it just kind of took a crazy bounce off a swell. I bounced in the air. When I came back down, the boat came up and hit me at the same time, and it broke my back, and I ended up also having an incomplete spinal cord injury. And I was airlifted to Stony Brook University Hospital in Stony Brook, Long Island, and they ended up doing emergency surgery and put plates and screws in my neck. And then I was there. I was in intensive care, and then I got transported after 2 weeks. I got transported to Gaylord Hospital in Wallingford by ambulance to do my initial rehab. I was there for 6 weeks until I was able to perform some activities of daily living myself, and I was discharged in a wheelchair and told I wasn't sure if I would ever walk again.
That must have been psychologically really difficult for you. You're a young woman, you have 2 children, to go through something like that, and it's excruciatingly painful.
It was devastating. It was a lot to wrap my mind around, but I figured I had a choice to make. Everybody has choices, they always tell you that, so I can either go down that rabbit hole of despair or just try to fight. They said it was an incomplete spinal cord injury, so in my eyes that gave me a little bit of hope. It wasn't complete. When they're complete, it's less likely. And they said just keep working hard. I would ask all the time, am I going to walk again? They always said they didn't know, so I just kept working hard at therapy. To this day, I'm still at therapy at Gaylord.
Tell us about the therapy at Gaylord, and were there times, that you were discouraged? Because I understand from talking to some of the therapists there that those who have a positive attitude and really believe that they're going to be okay fare better than those who are depressed, and rightfully so. It can be very, very devastating.
I think it helped a little bit too that I have a medical field background. I work in the medical field, so my first thought always is like, yes, how is the patient doing physically, but how are they mentally, how are their spirits? And so I just kind of took that to the inside myself, and I tried to stay positive. But aside from all the staff at Gaylord, they're amazing. You're a special breed if you're working there.
One of the things that I found when I went to Gaylord, I met another woman who was also, I think, in a motorcycle accident, and she too could not walk for a long period of time. And when I saw her with her therapist reconnect, there's such a bond there, because you really spend a lot of time.
Oh, so much time. So much time. These people see you at your worst. Literally, I could do nothing myself. So initially, I didn't have use of my arms either. So when the swelling decreased, I was able to get my arms back, which was huge, obviously. But aside from that, like I said, I was discharged in my wheelchair, so that was going to be my life.
So how did you think, so I want to enlighten people about the Gauntlet, which I believe is Gaylord Hospital's big fundraiser of the year.
It is, yep.
And this year they had about 1,000 athletes compete. And out of 30 of those athletes are people like yourselves who have some challenges and physical. I have to tell you, I did it, and there were 24 obstacles, and it is challenging.
It is, especially being adaptive. So fortunate, I started walking unassisted without anything just in January. And then Kate, my physical therapist, asked if I wanted to try the Gauntlet. So my home physical therapist, Kathy, was like, okay, like, you need to learn to walk though before you can run. So Gaylord just has amazing equipment. They had this treadmill that actually suspended my weight and calibrated to me so that it would suspend a certain amount of weight so I can learn to move my legs quicker. So it wasn't actually until March that I started to actually like do a slow jog. So June was when the Gauntlet was, and I think my jog is a little bit to be desired. I don't know if I can even
I think there's a good reason for that.
But I was determined, you know, I was honored that they asked me to be one of their featured athletes. So and I just rose to the challenge. Like, I figured I owed it to them. I owed it to everybody who stood by my side, whether it was my inpatient therapist, my outpatient therapist, Kate, you know, inpatient, I had Tim, Finn, Jamie, like, they were amazing. My home therapist, Kathy, my family. I mean, I was surrounded by love and support, my friends. Like, I owed it to them. That's why I did it.
When you talk about your friends, I want to tell you, Laurie showed up with a huge fan club. I've never seen so many people. I met your kids, family members, everyone who was there to support you. It was really very emotionally inspiring.
It was probably one of the best days. I wish I could relive it. Like, aside
they'll
from
let you come back next year.
Yeah, they said for sure you could definitely come back next year and do it. So I can't say enough about Gaylord. I can't say enough about the support from my family and friends, and it's overwhelming. I'm so grateful. There's still things that I can't do, but I mean, I'm so much further than I ever thought I would be. When I saw my spine doctor at Yale, she was, you know, I was like kind of...
The body can heal.
Yeah, she said a lot of it is with your outlook and your attitude, because I was in a 1% recovery rate. So I was like, wow, I guess that's mildly impressive. I didn't really look at it like that. But when someone tells you that, and then looking back now, what's gone on the past 2 years, I really don't even know how I did it, honestly.
We always hear that attitudes go such a long way. You know, you hear all the time that people don't have a long time to live, or they're never going to walk. But there are cases where, you know, and you and I talked about that. There was a young man, Anthony, who came over in a wheelchair to the finish line, who I believe was involved in a motocross accident and may not walk again. And so the emotions are different for someone like that. I mean, you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I do. I feel very fortunate. Like we spoke before, part of me, like my heart went out to him, because I know what it feels like to be in his position, and it's unimaginable to go from walking one day to not. And they told me probably not again. So, I mean, you know, I'm young, I have my kids, I have my family, I have Gary, like I have 3 stepsons, like one of them ran it with us, you know, Matthew, like it was amazing.
I saw you come down that water chute at the end laughing, and you know, but I saw you at the beginning too, and you could see you were very nervous about how did you, and what did you say to yourself to be able to compete this very challenging obstacle course? I mean, at that point, I mean, you could have decided, you know, maybe this is not the year.
Right. And the PR people did come up to me. They saw that I was getting very nervous and overwhelmed, and they said, you know, you don't have to do any of this. Like, this is fine. You've made it this far. This is a huge feat in itself. And I was like, you know, I talked to Gary. Like, he kind of talked me off the ledge, which he kind of always does. And he's like, you're here. Like, that's all that matters, is that you're here. So anything else is icing on the cake. It's extra. And I said, you know what? Yes, I owe this to myself, I guess, but I owe it to my kids to show them. Like, that was my biggest motivator, which sounds silly. Everybody's adults now. You know, they're between 18 and 25 in our home. We have 5 children together, you know, so, but I think it's even most important. Life is more challenging as you get older, and I wanted to show them, like, you don't give up. And there was plenty of times where I was like, this isn't working, like I can't do this anymore, and I was like, but then that's not showing everybody that if you just keep at it and you work hard.
And it's such a team effort. I mean, I had trouble getting over a couple of obstacles, and I remember someone saying, do you mind if I give you a push? I said, please do. And people came to your rescue who you weren't even had talked to.
You didn't even know them.
Right, it's really about teamwork.
Yeah, I was surrounded by my physical therapist, and like I said, Matthew as well, and I didn't miss not one of the obstacles, but I don't think I would have made it. I know I would not have made it without their help, and it's just a perfect example of I am where I am because of the help. This is not...
You know, I waited, even though I had finished, and almost wanted to watch every single person come over that finish line, because to see the emotion in them after completing, I mean, some of those obstacles, again, were very challenging, and I don't know how, I mean, it was hard for an able-bodied person to do it. Was there anything that stuck out in your mind when you were, you know, doing any one of those obstacles, you know, that you said, oh my God, you know, look what's happened? Or was it the opposite? Did you say, look, you know, look what I'm able to do now, when just a few months ago you were in a wheelchair for what, 14 months? Right.
I think it was probably the former. I was like, oh my God, how can I do this? Because there's some things I still can't do with my legs. So anything that required me lifting my legs, you know, stairs and steps are still difficult for me. So that's what my team was there for. They lifted my legs for me. They got me over the hurdles. I have like really increased upper body strength, which I'm grateful for, which I never had before. So that's huge. But it was just, I think we all just got in that mindset, like, we're doing this. Like, there is no other option. So you get in that mindset.
Right, the woman that I met, Diane, who was in the motorcycle accident, she said that at Gaylord, that, you know, not moving is not an option.
It's not an option, no. I mean, they give you a couple seconds if you want to have your little pity party to yourself, and you're like, you're here to work, like, this is what you're here to do. And they had asked me my goal when the first day I was there, like, what's your goal? I'm like, to walk again. And I was like, how silly was that? Because looking back, like, and they don't tell you that, you know, they wrote your goal down and that was it, but my goal was to learn how to transfer out of my chair myself without needing assistance. Like, that was huge, you know, and they give you a gold bracelet at Gaylord when you're able to transfer from any kind of chair to a sitting position somewhere else without assistance. You finally get a gold band. Like, you have to achieve that, and to get your gold wristband is huge. And I was like, how much that changed in 4 weeks out only, that my goal wasn't to walk, my goal was to get my gold wristband so that I didn't need anybody to help me get out of my wheelchair. So I didn't need anybody to help me to get into the bathroom. You know, I had to learn to do all that again myself. Wow. Like, Gaylord doesn't come home with you.
No, they don't, and you still go.
I'm still a patient there. I still do outpatient therapy. I've been a patient for 22 months there now, so.
I think everyone that I've spoken to, or a lot of people, have heard of Gaylord, right?
Right.
And I think people are there for a variety of reasons, but they really help people not only gain their mobility, but give them their lives back.
Yeah, a different perspective they give you. It's not the perspective I had from standing on my 2 feet. I do remember the first day I went down to the inpatient gym, and I didn't even know how to roll a wheelchair myself. So I asked them to take me back to my room, and they said, well, what do you mean? And they make you verbalize it. They knew that it was overwhelming for somebody, but I was wheeled into this inpatient gym that had everybody looked like me. Everybody was disabled. Everybody was in a wheelchair, and I was like, this is where I belong. Like, it was too much.
I see these photos of you.
That's when I got my arms back.
Wow.
That's Finn and my OT, Jamie. That was one of the first times they had me standing. This was an adaptive event of rock climbing that the Gaylord Sports Association puts on. That's Tim. That was in an exosuit. It's a robot that does the walking for you. And the equipment they have there, the personnel, the staff, they're unmatched in my eyes.
What do you think it is? And again, you see people of all different disabilities, right? All kinds of injuries. That there's something in your mind that when you have that drive to get better, you must have seen people who just, who have a much longer road to recovery.
Yes, and I've seen people give up and discharge themselves.
Really?
Mm-hmm. One patient, I was, it brings it all back. Like, it's a choice, again. And if you're choosing not to do that or take advantage of what's being offered to you, it's not a personal thing. I think a person just has to come to the realization of where they're at in their life. This was a very young person, and I think it was difficult for them to realize that they may never walk or move like they used to.
Very hard. I saw that with Anthony when he came over the finish line, and it was one of the most dramatic things that I had seen that day. And he was exhausted but just collapsed knowing. But in some way, yes, you know that you're not going to walk again, maybe. But the gauntlet, in a way, or those type of events, help you realize that you still can do things, but in a different...
just different. I never rock climbed before, but I did it for the first time with Gaylord Sports Association, and I was like, wow, I just did that. Like, that was crazy.
There's that mud event.
Of course, it had to be the first event. There's a double amputee right there. Like, really?
It's incredible.
It's crazy.
To see all of those, and again, there you are.
Wow. Yeah, I never learned to crawl yet again, so my legs don't move like that, so that was interesting. They just were pulling me through.
Well, I remember at the mud event, they do that pretty quickly to get you acclimated. But really, when you see these 30 athletes, and look, helping people over there, you are again.
Yep. And there's my team. And
so you would definitely do it again?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. My girlfriend flew up from Texas. She surprised me. We're going to do it every year, her and her daughter. And whoever else wants to join, I would,
it's funny from a personal perspective. I've covered the gauntlet, and I've been to Gaylord so many times and met so many people. And, I never did the gauntlet. And then this year, you were my inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you really were, because I thought, if you can do this, and all these people have these limitations, and can have the right attitude, who am I to complain? And now I feel as if, I too want to do it again.
Yeah, well, we can do it next year.
Yeah?
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I shy away from all of this stuff, the coverage and all that, but just because I'm kind of a fly below the radar type of person, but if what I have to say inspires somebody, if that's the way I can help, then that's how I'll help.
What advice do you have for people? Again, people who go to Gaylord have all sorts, and we all know someone who has been there, right? Whether it's a stroke or, and they give you a chance to, with your own abilities and attitude, change your life if you want to.
Right. Let them. That would be my advice. Let them do what they do because they do it best. And don't give up.
And you still have a ways to go.
I do, but I think last assessment they said I was about 80%. I'll take it. I'll live at 80% for the rest of my life. Like, I'm good with that,
How has this been for your family?
So that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the accident physically happened to me, but it happened to my entire family. I wasn't home, and Gary wasn't home for 8 weeks. So, like I said, together we're a blended family. We have 5 children at home, and yes, they are a little bit older at the time. They were between 16 and 23, but my daughter was going into her senior year at college, and I wasn't able to move her up for her senior year. And she lived in a 3rd floor apartment. I was never able to go up and see her in her apartment, and I attended her graduation in my wheelchair. And I went back to work, and Gary drove me to work every day for 6:30 in the morning. And you know, it was help around the house, and you don't ever ask for help with anything extra because you need help with the everyday stuff. You know, I mean, the help from my friends, my friends, I have such a tribe of women that I could not have lived without at all. I mean, who redid my house for me and got my bathroom handicap accessible, and who came to Gaylord and took my laundry and did my laundry. And I mean, the list is endless. Lisa, who bought all those t-shirts for everybody at the day of the race. Like, it's just, I had a friend who took me Christmas shopping, and I wouldn't have had Christmas my first year. I couldn't drive. I couldn't get myself in and out of my vehicle. The list is endless.
The things we take for granted.
The things you take for granted. Getting up and going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I mean, I don't know, everything. Cooking dinner. I mean, I learned to cook again in Gaylord. I learned everything again in Gaylord, but my house was not handicap accessible in my kitchen, and we had just built that house. I'm like, I'm not ripping apart my brand new kitchen. So it was difficult. I just started driving 2 months ago.
Wow.
By myself, yeah, yep.
Do you think this has changed your perspective when you look at people who have disabilities?
Oh, 100%. There was so many things that, like, yes, you think the world is aware, but there's so many things. There's so many shortfalls out there still, and there's so many people who just don't pay attention to somebody in a wheelchair. It's disheartening. I mean, someday when I have time, I would love to go back and volunteer at Gaylord and just share my story with somebody who seems downtrodden. When you're first there, they have volunteers take you around in a wheelchair until you're able to, like, wheel yourself. They encourage independence, like, from the get-go. And I would love to be one of those people that helped someone get back to their room and just talk to them. Sometimes it's just a friendly ear that makes all the difference.
And we also don't realize how handicap inaccessible things are, right?
There's so many things that are not handicap accessible. And that makes it a daunting task. So going from Stony Brook to Gaylord, like, I was petrified. That was a safe environment for me at Stony Brook, right? Then I went to Gaylord and I got adapted. I mean, where better else to be than Gaylord when you're disabled? But then I got discharged, and like I said earlier, you can't take Gaylord home with you. So you have to garner the knowledge and the skills to take care of yourself at home, but it's a daunting task. Everybody had to go back to work. So here I am in my home by myself in a wheelchair that's barely handicap accessible. You know, we had a ramp built on the front of it. We had one bathroom that could, you know, it was accessible for me. But there's so many places that don't have the ramps, that don't have doorways you can fit through, that don't have the bathrooms that you can fit in. It's just...
Right, and I believe that this fundraiser that they have for the Gauntlet really goes towards the Adaptive Athlete Program.
Yes.
To help people like yourself get
Right.
back on your feet.
Yes, yeah, and it's, I mean, there's just an energy there that I'm thinking of Katie, who runs the Sports Association. I mean, her energy is just unmatched.
Like, you can tell these people have a huge heart.
Like, this is where they were meant to be. And this is their lot in life. And they want to see you get, whether you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, on crutches, not, whatever your disability, they want you to reach your full ability just as much as you do. And they treat you as if you're the only patient they're seeing.
I'm going to ask the obvious question. Has this changed you?
Yes. Yes. I would be foolish to say it didn't. It just opens up my heart even more. I've always been a helpful, caring person, the line of work I'm in, you know, whatever, but it opened my mind as well. You have to have an open mind when you have to have some empathy when you see somebody that's not doing well or just not in the same place as you are. Like, don't judge. Like, just be helpful. It means so much.
Laurie Bizzairo, you are truly an inspiration. I have enjoyed meeting you, and I enjoyed the event, and I hope to see you next year. And I'm so glad that you've had a good recovery. And I think for all of the people listening and watching today, they will understand how powerful the mind and the spirit are. So thank you again for joining us on Real Talk.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you again soon. And I know that I will definitely see you next year.
Yes, at the Gauntlet.
How could I miss this event?
I know. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for listening and watching Real Talk with RAFF. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.